So this next one, we are going to learn how to use the gradient tool, but this time around how to create it so we can reuse it on our subsequent projects. So for instance, I have this 4 color palettes, but this is not actually a color palette. These are practically gradient palettes. Okay, so this gradient palette means I don't need to start applying gradients for my particular design. I just create them the color that the client likes, so I simply place them here. Whenever I want to use them, I simply click over with the color picker tool, which is the eyedropper in Illustrator. So I just pick on it. It's practically simply when you select on it, when you click on a color, it practically becomes that gradient, and so on and so forth. You understand? So this double color gradient, to confirm that, we click on this, and we get closer, so we see. To confirm this a color gradient, tap on this. You see we have this color by this side and this other color by this side. So this a color gradient, and is simple to be noticed. Without being misunderstood, I told you earlier before now that this is not a color palette. This is a gradient palette, not just a color palette. A color palette is a single form of color like this. Like we have, this is not a gradient. Okay, so when you pick on this color, it becomes just one color. You understand? So this is what we call a color palette. So to create this is very simple. All you need to do is just to use your rectangular builder tool and create a perfect square or rectangular, whatever shape you want to create, but I think a perfect square works fine. So what you're going to do is duplicate this by holding the ALT in your keyboard, the alternate key in your keyboard, then drag along and make sure it's retain the same line. Okay, make sure it retains the same line. To get a better result, you can use the selection tool, not the direct selection tool. So you hold on the Alt key again and you drop down, hold on it again and you drop down. And if you want to make multiple colors, let me say 8 colors, as you have made 4, you can select all the 4 and then hold the Alt key to create another 4. Okay, so for the purpose of this tutorial, we are going to work with just 5, like I have in my right side. So we created what we want. So now we are going to create gradient tool, and I'll show you how to save this so you can reuse it on your next projects. Okay, so now you created these rectangular shapes with any color. It can be black or whatever color it is. You can pick your color sampling. So what you do is select on the one you want to change the color gradient, then you go to your gradient panel, then you can now start creating. For this benefit of this, we are going to create a gold color. Okay, so to get a gold color form or format, we are going to use some color values that I will send to you after now. So this is perfect for the middle, and this is going for the middle, and we are going to use another one for this angle. We're going to use another one for this angle. So to create a golden color, it is for me, I would say it is very easy to do. All you got to do is to understand values that works better for you. There are different kinds of gold. Okay, so I'll be sending these color values for you. See it, FC, this color value over here. Let me zoom closely so you can see more closely. This FCEE21, that's the color value for the middle gold, and the color value for the other side of the gold is FCC221. Okay, so we have this color value. You can still go in and modify it a little by adding some tweakings, making it a little bit darker to get the realism we are looking for. So this is just the gold I usually use. Okay, so this is the gold value. Now notice something here. Let me zoom closely. Notice something here. Let me zoom out and zoom from my video recorder. So notice something here. If you watch closely in this gold, it is slanted vertically. Now why I want to make this to look more realistic, you're gonna select your gradient and then draw from this angle. It's gonna slant this other way, and this is what we are looking for. Okay. So very good. So you can create multiple gradients. Let me say, for instance, we can use yellow and red like I used to, and so on. And make sure you use lighter colors. Don't use very dark colors for gradient. They don't look very nice in the eyes. Okay. So now here we are going to change this color to become something more light. I would prefer we go with this. Then this is going to go for dimmer, let me say orange color. Okay, so we have these two colors here. We have the gold and we have the orange color. So let's see how we're going to apply that on our logo. So when we click on the particular shape size we want to apply, let me take for instance this upper side of the apple leaf. We select the color picker tool, then we pick on the gold. It becomes what you want. You can use your gradient tool at the left corner and make it whatever size you want to make it. Okay, you can still select that and make the same color here. You can make this another color here, or so on and so forth. So you can get a different values. You can do that yourself, get the different values of gold. I don't think this gold works very good for me. It might work for you, but for me I don't think it's very nice gold. I didn't come out here with my gold gradient values, so you'll be checking that out online. Go, you see many kind of gold gradient values. There are tons of them out there. So now we can use this to start applying in our logos. You understand? So you can use this and apply to your logos and tweak them whatever way you want them to be, but make sure you stay on the brighter side, which means make sure your color gradient works perfectly and there is no much contrast issues. So if you watch, for instance, the yellow that is here doesn't work well with this background. It makes it, when you zoom out from afar, it makes it look somehow dim. So we're gonna use gold for that. You can also use white for that if you like white, and that's it. So when you zoom out, you can see it very from the far, you can see it very clearly. So now we have what we want. We can create all of these. You want to select multiple layers to apply one single gradient. You can select multiple layers and apply. It automatically applies. Now let me teach you something here. When we apply these on these multiple layers, you notice that they all have their own gradients on their parts, which means when we select and modify this gradient and make it to come, the gradient will come from the top left. You see what happens? It doesn't apply to the other ones. The other one still falls from the middle. So when we want everything to apply the same, you select everything, then select your gradient, and then you can mark from the left, and everything is going to apply according to that particular selection you made. So you see the gold is coming from this angle to this angle. So you understand that very clearly. So when you want to make a particular concept for one particular gradient, you select, then you go back there and you make for that. So you want to make them have this slanted shape for all of them. You're going to select all of them one after the other and make sure your slant works perfectly the way the other ones looks. Okay, so you want to achieve a faster job process. You have to learn some shortcuts here. So the shortcut to select a particular layer or select pick on the direct selection tool or the selection tool is A. A is for the direct selection tool and V is for the direct selection tool. So when you click on V, you click on the direct selection tool, you can pick on your color. Instead of moving here again to select the gradient tool, you can just click on G to select the gradient tool, so you can work on what you want to work on. So V again to select, again G to work on what you want to work on, A to select on, and G to work on what you want to work on, V also to select on, and G to work on what you want to work on. Okay, so with that being understood, we are going to learn the second phase of this. You can still apply those to these particles. So with that being understood, we are going to learn how to save these palettes so we can reuse them again and again and again. Okay, so let's take for instance this logo doesn't exist. We delete it. Let's bring our color palettes here. let's bring our color palette with the direct selection tool. Bring our color palette here. We can increase it to whatever size we want. So this is our color palette, and this is our color palette AI file. So to save this, you click on Control Alternative Save. So you can save it as a illustrator. You can call it gradient palette. So now we call it the gradient palette. You're gonna leave it at Illustrator. Okay, leave it at Illustrator. Then save it to your desktop or wherever you know you can trace back to it. So just click on OK. You will see we have our gradient. So let's say, for instance, we are on a new project like this. So let's Ctrl Z. Let's forget about this logo. Can close it down. We don't need it anymore. So let's take, for instance, we want to create a new work. What you got to do is just to select on your gradient tool, double click on it, it will appear here, or you drag it and place it on top of this angle, so it automatically appears. So we have our gradient tool. To use it on the other logo, we select everything we need and drag it above here. I hope you're seeing what I'm doing. Drag it above here and drop it there. So you can resize it to match the size of what you are doing, and you can also rotate it based on the concept or the alignment of the design you are making. So now we want to apply the gold to this. So you select everything there, you select on your color picker tool, and you select the gold. See how it works? Very simple. And you want to apply only that gold to this palette alone. You can still select only on it and drag down and so on and so forth. So this is how you create your color palette. Remember, gold works better on a black background. So to use gold very well to work for you, you're gonna need a dark background like this. Okay, see how gold appears here. So that's the color value. So let's check on the color value I built previously, gold color value. So let's see how we are also going to apply them here. We want to bring this gold color value to this palette so we can save it and reuse it as we did here. So what you're going to do, if you have any color palette or color value you think you appreciate or you like, what you're going to do is select on the color value, then select on your color palette, then you pick on your color picker tool and click on the color value you want. Automatically it comes to that value. So when you want to use this on this and select everything here, you click on your color picker tool, pick on it, it automatically reassembles it to become the same color value we have here. So you can pick on any color value, but remember that a color looks like a gradient, or you have two colors doesn't mean it is a gradient color. Understand? So let me take, for instance, let me bring something from this Photoshop into Illustrator so I can show you what I mean. So for instance, this color value, let's pick it to Illustrator. It looks like a gradient too, okay? So but it's not a gradient tool. Let me show you why. So we want to add this value to this place, or want to make it to become the value here. So when you select everything, select on your color picker tool, just watch what happens. If you pick on this, it selects only the top color because the value is understanding is just one color, because this is not a gradient color. So when you pick on the downside, it picks on the one single color. I hope you understand what's happening there. Okay, so when we want to use this to create a color value or a color palette or gradient value or a gradient palette, all you need to do is to select on your gradient palette, then open on your gradient tool, click on it. You can remove one, all you need is just two for now. So select on it, double click to select, then pick on this color picker tool. You pick on the top side have replaced this. So let me zoom closely, see what we are doing. Zoom out a little. So we pick on the second side we are going to use the color picker tool again, and we're going to click on the downside. You see it appears here. Okay, so now let's try our gradient tool and see if it works now. So when you select everything here and you select on your color picker tool and click on the gradient tool, you see what happened? Boom, we have it. Automatically it applies the gradient tool we have here. So some colors are just not a gradient tool. Example colors you download from online like Google and so on and so forth. They are not gradient tool. Gradient tool are colors you can download, like AI file you download from like FreePic or other gradient providing sites. So but if you download an image that have a gradient tool, you need to have to convert it to the gradient tool here so you can reuse it again and again. So guys, that's what we have. Okay, let me just select. That's what I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. If you got any questions or anything disturbing you about the gradient tool, just let me know. We'll be fixing the more complex aspects of the gradient tool in our next tutorial. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the day. Once again, this is Manuel signing out from CatersGraphix.